We're joined by Caddo Sheriff Steve Prator this morning. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. We're hearing that some lawmakers were meeting to talk about possibly legalizing recreational use of marijuana, and you were the first person I thought of. You for it or you against it?
well, good. I hope you thought of me because of law enforcement and not that I'm out
You
smoking
bet.
dope or something.
Absolutely.
Boy, you have no idea, Mr. Steve, you have no idea the jokes I am passing up because I have so much respect for you. But please continue.
What do you think about it?
Well, I know it's something that we've got to talk about and deal with eventually. One of the biggest problems that I have with talking about legalizing it is at this point we don't really have a way to just stop somebody and see if they're driving under the influence of marijuana like we do alcohol. That's that's a big thing there as far as your driving abilities. The rest of it, there's so many different sides of the story, and you can't go by the polls because, so many people want you to think they have a wrong thought of it as far as what we do in law enforcement. Like we don't have people in the Caddo and CCC that are charged with just simple possession of marijuana. We issue summonses. The sheriff's office does. Because we don't want to be tied up all evening trying to have to arrest somebody and book them and all, but we want it dealt with because it is against the law.
Is marijuana, in your view, and I know we've talked to several of your investigators, and they say it really is a gateway drug, and that's the issue here. That's the big problem. Or is that an issue you're concerned about as well?
Well, I don't really have sure it's a gateway drug because if you're going to do it, you may get tired of doing that and want to move on to something else, or it may not satisfy you. You can't escape with it enough, but then there's a lot of people that never move on to something else. So you can't just definitively say that somebody does marijuana is going to go out and start doing cocaine. But yeah, that's one of the drawbacks, and of course we have to think about is it the medicinal value of it, and of course we're not talking about that this morning. But we've dealt with that in the legislature as far as the oils and the things that you can do that aren't considered recreational, but still have a medicinal quality. So, for one thing, it should be taken out of the equation that it's a real pain for law enforcement because, like I say, we do issue summonses. Now, the rest of it, it's such a social issue. Do I see marijuana is that much worse than going out and drinking? And we've got so many alcoholics around now. So I'm trying to talk about it without giving you something to pin me down on.
Let me ask you, if you've got to fire 20 deputies tomorrow because of budget cuts or legalize recreational marijuana, where would you fall then?
See, you can think about it while I tell you what she asked me, because I'm as anti-tax as somebody would ever be. And she says, so here's your choice. You've got a choice in paying the state of Louisiana $1,000 a year more in taxes or legalizing marijuana and the state's rolling in cash. And I said, now I got to think about that. And I think you're sort of where I am, right?
Well, yeah, I'd have to think about that. It's hard for me to look at it as a revenue source, though, because I fail to see that, in my estimation, you give government more money, they're going to figure out a way to waste more. And so, I don't even like to deal with the aspect of whether it's a revenue resource or not. I like to deal with the human issues of it. Is it bad for families? Is it bad for a person to do that? Is it take a lot of resources from law enforcement? That sort
Steve,
of thing more than revenue.
Pardon me. Speaking of that, if it were legal, like it is in, say, Colorado or Oregon or one of those lefty states, if it were legal in Louisiana, would it make your job, the guys who work for you, the women would it make their jobs easier? Because that would be something that would be off the table.
I don't think it would, because it would probably be a wash by the time we started having to regulate it. By the time we started having to deal with the fact that people are going to get out and drink, smoke and drive more, and there'll be more accidents and there'll be more problems because of it. So I think it'll be a wash as far as that goes. I really believe it boils down to just the social issue of it, the social aspect. Do you want that? Do you think it's do you think it's time that we moved in that direction?
Would it be fair to say that you, Sheriff Steve Prator, would be against the legalization of marijuana as long as a test like blow the balloon test for people who have been drinking and driving? Would you be against it as long as a test does not exist?
I'll be against it as long as we can't figure out if you're under the influence when you're behind the wheel of a car. We got to figure that out.
One more twist here. Sheriff Steve Prator's going to get $1 million a year from the marijuana taxes for law enforcement. Does that tickle your fancy at all?
Not really, because, like I say, it makes you sound like a prostitute or something,
That was exactly the term we used, as a matter of fact.
Okay, I don't want to do anything just for money. There's ways that government can cut back. I mean, that gets to the bigger issue. That's not what you called this morning. Didn't call me, but like I say, I don't like to deal with it as a revenue source. There's so many questions that need to be answered and dealt with prior to the revenue aspect of it, as far as I'm concerned.